Welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. I am Graveyard, as joined as always with my Austrian producer Salem in the chat. Make sure to say hi to Salem. He loves to hear from you. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you our guest for tonight. He's our director, writer, producer of Now It's Dark Films, film critic, a screen comment, and the movie review, the one and only Anthony Francis.
How you doing? Glad
All
to
right.
be here.
Thanks for coming on.
Sure, man. Thank you. It's gonna
All
be
right.
fun.
Oh yeah, always. It's always a blast. So, without further ado, let's get into some of our easy questions here that we have for you. You've seen the show, you know how we roll.
Yep.
So, how did you get into? I know you've done stuff with Now It's Dark Films and writing and producing. How did you get into this world of even movie reviews?
Well, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel. Uh, uh, on TV and in person. I grew up. I hate to say that I'm old enough. I grew up watching Siskel and Ebert. They're the ones that got me started on doing best and worst year lists and so on and so on. And in the late 90s, I started working at the Ebert Fest and
Oh,
spent a lot of time with him, talked to a lot of spoke with a lot of the talent, the visiting talent. One of the weirdest conversations I ever had was Werner Herzog. Um, you ask him how, hey, did you like that sandwich earlier? And all of a sudden it's an existential this and that. But hey, it was great. But Ebert and I only talked to Siskel a few times, but Ebert I dealt with a lot, and he got me into what film criticism should be and is, and look, I can geek out with the rest of them,
right.
and I love doing it. But he taught me. I had a friend who used to go through my movie collection, and he'd be like, "Okay, Godfather, good. Raging Bull, okay," and then he'd start pulling out the horror stuff, and I'm talking the according to other people, low rent horror stuff. The Burning, shit can this. I'm like, no. And my opinion has always been, in their own way, and Ebert taught me this, they're as important. Some of those are as important. Dawn of the Dead is as important a movie as Citizen Kane.
Mhm.
And I don't have to tell you that, but yeah, no, and that led me to film criticism for years. I do a little bit of script doctoring here and there,
Oh,
and I wrote my own with a friend of mine in 2010 horror film called The Graveyard. Pre-production was in. We had backers, and we were halfway through filming. We were promoting it at all the horror fests around the
yeah.
East Coast, and it was great talking to people. And we cast it, and everything. And we were halfway through shooting. We were shooting it in sequence
Yeah.
because I have to, because I'm an idiot. Um, because the studio isn't making me say, nope, you get this done today and that done tomorrow. And our backers got scared of horror films. And
Oh,
so we called a meeting with them, and we said, please wait, please wait. Let me explain. This is how you make the money and this and that. And
hmm,
not that we were going to get much of a fee anyway, but myself and my co-writer, and I was the sole director, said we will waive whatever profit we get because it's our first film.
right.
You can have all the profits. I mean, we didn't say it in such a begging way, like, please, sir, can I have, but
Right.
and they pulled out. So The Graveyard is yet unfinished, but things are in place right now. I'm talking to some people that I need to recast a couple. Unfortunately, one of our cast got out of the business, and the other one unfortunately died. But so I would have to recast, but I'll shoot the same script. I'll shoot it the same way. I've
Hmm.
got some of my cast saying they'll come back. They look a little older than they were when I started filming it, but change the age. I don't care. This isn't
Hmm.
a docudrama. And so anyway, The Graveyard is hopefully coming back within the next year and a half, and production will be back.
Yeah,
So,
we'll have to talk offline about that if you need assistance like that. I also dabble in independent horror filmmaking as well.
very
So
nice.
yeah, I was just filming something this past weekend where I'm co-wrote, AD'd it, acted, and probably was the most heavily special effects person done. With just blood
Sweet.
everywhere.
And look, I'm not saying the Graveyard is the next, Texas Chainsaw, but
Mhm.
I like any good film, I don't know, connoisseur, geek, nerd, whatever you want to say. I threw in lots of horror references, and it's just a simple story. But I one of the things I love about the horror genre is when it's done properly, atmosphere is what makes or breaks a good horror film. And
Yeah.
and that's what I concentrated on. Not one jump scare in this whole movie, and I'm proud of it. But
Thank
lots
you.
of atmosphere and a little blood. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
my when I very quickly when I had the cast meeting, um, before we started shooting, I said, look, my only, I'm open to any ideas. I'm not closed minded. This is a group effort. I said, but my one mantra is at the end of every sentence, and somebody gets killed by an axe. And that was the ongoing joke. Like, Anthony, can we do this? Yeah, that sounds good. And they're like, and somebody gets killed by an axe. So yeah. But anyway,
Now,
that's where I am now, and that led me to
yeah.
that's coming back. And then I'm working for Screen Comment. It's out of France. It's a film review.
Okay.
And I do the American side, of course. And been there since 2018. And my buddy Ben Calamer and I started the movierevue.com. And
Mhm.
it's a movie review, interviews, article site. And that's been going strong for about 5 years. So.
Oh wow. Yeah. That's great. Like I said, it's
Sorry, I'm a
great to know.
writer, so every answer isn't going to be yes, no,
Oh, good, good. That's what I like to hear.
right.
One of the other shows that my co-host and I do is we also do the Mostly Pilot Night Mostly podcast where we review 3 to 4 horror movies a week.
I listen to that too. I
Yeah.
think you guys need a guest, and I think it should be a guest that sounds like me and bears a striking resemblance to myself.
We'll have to work on that. We'll do a special one. I like the idea. Like I said, we've done 100 and some odd episodes now, and we have no end in sight. Like when we started off,
Oh,
we joked like 87 will be like a break in case of glass, and here we are. We have the rest of this year planned out already.
that's great, man. That's great.
So I'm gonna ask you a hard question here.
Uh-oh.
What is, in your opinion, Anthony, the most underrated horror IP or franchise
Mm.
that doesn't get enough praise or love that you think?
Can it be a single film?
Yeah,
Maybe.
absolutely.
I think the most underrated horror film of all time, post 1970, is Madman from 1981.
Okay.
Do you know that? Of
Yes.
course
It's
you
been a
know.
long time since I
Who am
watched
I
it.
talking to here? Yeah. You ever heard of The Exorcist? It. I think it is. It's the reason I think Friday the 13th Part 2 is the best one of the series of the Friday the 13th series.
Mm,
Madman is pure. They sit at a campfire. They tell the spooky story of the killer in the woods. The killer's in the woods. The killer isn't superhuman because
mhm,
Jason wasn't superhuman yet in
correct.
part 2. And in Madman, it's Madman Mars, and he lives in the woods and hangs out in the trees for some reason. And if you say his name, he comes and gets you. And Galen Ross is in it. And I've spoken with her, by the way. She's wonderful. Um, yeah, I think it is just the lighting. I talked about atmosphere. It has
Mhm.
the best atmosphere. It's not my favorite slasher, but it's the best atmosphere of any slasher movie that isn't named John Carpenter's Halloween. I think it's just beautifully done. It's like dark blue hues and full moon moonlights and the glow of the campfire, and
Mhm.
the blood is almost black because they shot a lot in real lighting in the woods, which is hard to do, especially in 1980.
Right.
I just think it's the most underrated slasher film, the most underrated 80s horror film, and the most underrated I just said that. Yeah. So there's your answer.
Yeah.
Madman,
Yeah.
1981.
I think you really hit the nail on the head, especially with the 80s stuff, because there's so much, especially the second half of the 80s. It was everyone just doing their own stuff straight to VHS, and you just have a copy of a copy of a copy from somewhere, some mom and pop
Right.
store in the 80s and 90s.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Can I piggyback that answer just real fast?
Yeah, absolutely.
My favorite Hammer horror film. The people who love Hammer know it, but it's still not widely known. The Devil Rides Out, Terrence Fisher
Yes.
from 1968. My favorite kind of horror is any kind of occult, devil this, devil that. My favorite horror film is The Exorcist. You know, I don't like to be on the bandwagons, but I am. Come on.
Right.
But The Devil Rides Out is just the best occult film I've ever seen. It's fantastic, and it's balls to the wall without going over the top. And again, the atmosphere is just incredible. And hey, everyone, if you haven't seen it, Christopher Lee is a good guy who's trying to actually stop the devil instead of trying to bring him in, like he does in about 6 or 7 other films.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's my other answer.
I do own that. I own all the Hammer horror on Laserdisc. So it's definitely
Laserdisc. I miss you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, my producer and I and co-host, we collect all Laserdiscs that we possibly can, especially horror.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I own as much horror, as much Hammer as I can. I have a ton of Hammer over there.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately,
that's my prized Hammer possession.
Yeah, unfortunately, some of them never made it to Laserdisc, so I had to regulate myself to DVD for it. All right, now here's the harder question: what's the most overrated horror IP franchise, film, TV show?
I take a lot of flack for this, and I'd like to apologize to viewers who don't know me. I just, and I have a caveat to this, I just don't get into The Omen. The original Omen, it's okay. I saw, I hate being that guy, but I saw it. I mean, look, Peck's good. There's some great stuff in it. I mean, it's undeniable as a film fan, as a writer, director, as a horror lover. There's some great stuff in there, but I just think it's kind of flat for the kind of horror that speaks to me. Part 2, William Holden's one of my favorite actors, but he couldn't even help part 2. I love Jerry Goldsmith's work for the first 2. Part 3, Oi. Part 4, Oi. The remake, Oi. The caveat is I go to a lot of press screenings, and I went to the press screening for the first Omen earlier this year. And I walked in, here we go. Let's get it over with. This is, I treat it as an assignment. And I walked out, and my review, the headline of my review, I wrote, the first great horror film of 2024.
Oh yeah, I read that article.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm mad that I liked it, and I'm mad that I loved it. I mean, it has some problems. Did you see it?
Yes, yeah, we did. We did an entire Omen franchise review for the podcast. So.
Oh yeah, sorry, I miss him. But I loved it, and I'm like, oh no, I like an Omen movie, So, but the Omen for me is definitely the most overrated horror franchise films out there. And there's some of my wife's favorites. So every 3-ish, 4-ish years, I watch the first 2, and I don't change. And I keep trying to change. I'm like, okay, here comes William Holden in part 2. I can't wait. No, doesn't do it. I have the scores on vinyl, but that's it.
Are you saying you didn't like the TV movie one of number 4? I mean, come on.
No. Yeah. No, I didn't.
Yeah, and I had a question specifically asked about the first Omen, because Salem and I, we don't generally like satanic children or stuff like that. So we're really not that big fans of Exorcist or Omen or really the Conjuring universe.
The first Conjuring was good, but it's not the end all be all that people think it is.
No, it's rated R for scary, or Insidious is rated R for scary, just because no one dies in the Conjuring universe. I think there's 3 or 4 people in 9 movies that actually die on screen.
Yeah, I think so. Like, come on, it's horror. People have got to go here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But
Mm.
I think they try to talk about the atmosphere that you were mentioning earlier. I think they try to set the atmosphere, and it's okay for it, but
Yeah.
it's not perfect. I think
No.
the darkness. They have a lot of jump scares because it's cheap horror. It was really
It's
what it
easy.
is.
It's easy. One of my favorite
Yeah.
John Carpenter commentaries is his vampires commentary.
Ooh.
And he says at the very first the first scene when they go
Mhm.
into the hive
Yeah.
and a body pops out and Carpenter's like, all right, cheap jump scare coming up. I'm sorry, guys. He's like, I had to do it. I had to do it. But
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I love the movie Vampires.
Me too. From day one, from
Yep.
day one, I think it's a classic. The Academy doesn't have the balls to nominate a performance like that. Woods was brilliant. One of his
Yes.
top works, I think.
We
And
don't talk about the sequel with John Bon Jovi.
I don't believe I know that. I wiped it from my memory. Yeah. No.
So when you watch a movie, do
Mm.
you ever get to enjoy it first, or do you always go into that critique and review mindset?
Not at all. I have a friend who does that, and he's like, I just can't enjoy movies because I'm always like, okay, is there symbolism here? What's that? Should I talk about this? I said, I go into every movie as a moviegoer, as a fan, as a,
Mhm.
and when I come out, then I start tuning into my own thoughts. And like after a movie, a press screening or something I go to without my wife, that I'm going to review, I'll call her and say, hey, it was good, it was bad, and I'll be home in an hour. I'm going to sit here for 30 minutes and jot down notes. But
Right.
no, I go in with a clear head. I don't look for things. I don't because you can't let a movie without sounding pretentious. You can't let it flow over you if
Right.
you're concerned with is that good? Is that cinema? Is that shot worth talking about?
Mhm.
Just let it go, and then when you come out, just like any whether you're a critic or a regular Joe seeing a movie, you come out and somebody asks you about it, and then all your thoughts start flowing.
Yep.
So no, I go in clean, and I just wanna hopefully, enjoy the film I'm seeing.
Right. And it took 100 episodes for me to start actually having a notebook with me when I start reviewing stuff, just to help the memory of it. I
Right.
know, but our plan for like when Alien Romulus comes out, like we're going to see it in IMAX. We're going to do all the bangs and whistles for everything for the first viewing. We're just going to go there and enjoy Alien.
You've just made me sad because we go to our lake house every August, and,
Hmm.
we haven't got the invite yet from our reps, but I emailed the head rep and I said, "We're gone from the 11th to the," and I know it opens on the 16th, but sometimes our press screenings are a couple weeks before a release.
Right.
And a lot of the big ones are the Monday or Tuesday before the Friday opening. And I said, "Hey, Shannon, is this coming? Because we can bring a guest sometimes." And my
Hmm.
son's dying as well. He's 15, big Alien fan from big. He calls himself the horror kid, and
There you go.
he's a Francis. So what am I going to do? That's actually his stuff behind me. Uh,
Okay.
but and she said, "Yeah, I think it's going to be that week." So I got online at the lake house. Find me the best theater we can. So I'm not gonna. If I'll probably review it, but it'll be late. But I'm gonna miss the press screening, which breaks my heart.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
said
I'm
we're
going in like you said.
yeah.
Critic, nope. Alien fanatic.
Yes. Yeah, and I think we determined like, all right, we're gonna see it the first time just as a fan, second time to review.
Right, right.
And I'm okay with seeing it twice.
Oh, me
Absolutely okay
too.
with it.
I can't wait unless I hate it, then, but I can't believe with that director, and Ridley Scott has given his, praise already, so
I mean,
I
he gave his praise to Prometheus too.
I like Prometheus. I know there's a 50-50 on that one,
Yeah.
but I like it. I don't think it's perfect. I'm one of the few that thinks Covenant is, maybe the 3rd or 4th best Alien film.
Interesting.
Your silence means I understand what you think about it. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's. I think Covenant was better than Prometheus,
I do
hands
too.
down,
I
hands
do
down.
too. Yeah, yeah.
But you're talking about not wanting to see a movie again or for a second time. In your time of reviewing, what has been the worst movie that you've ever seen, in your opinion?
Oh my gosh. Uh, I go immediately to, and you mean any genre, right?
Oh yeah.
I go immediately to The Brown Bunny, Vincent Gallo's travesty from mid 2000s, but that's not fair because Roger Ebert famously got into a pissing match with Vincent Gallo over calling it the worst movie he'd ever seen as a critic. You did there. All your other questions that you said were hard were easy. This one's hard to answer. This one's hard to answer. Um, I don't know. Bad Boys 2. Um, I mean, when we get off, I'm sure I'll be like, oh, I know my answer. But yeah, I don't like being negative, but 2021, I or 2022, I had to pare down my worst of the year. I do a best and worst
Yeah.
every, and I had to pare down the worst of the year list. And I said in my article that 2022 is the worst year for film since I've been alive.
Oh wow.
Maybe a little harsh. I don't know. Oh, here we go. I've got it. Babylon from
Yeah.
2022. That I tell you, I mean, as a film fan, what he did with that thing was
Hmm.
jaw dropping. I couldn't. I'm watching a serious movie about the history of film coming to sound and celebrating cinema. In the opening 5 minutes, an elephant is diarrheaing all over the. Is that a word? Diarrheaing? Having diarrhea all over the camera. Okay. No, I Babylon is one of the worst films I've ever seen, and probably the worst film I've had to review. It is garbage.
Yeah, it's amazing sometimes, and you're talking it with your funding for the graveyard and stuff like that. Like
Mm.
people are given millions of dollars to make movies, and sometimes the stuff they turn out with is absolutely astounding how bad it really is.
Astonishing sometimes. Astonishing. Yeah. Um, the funny thing is, the horror genre is not so much anymore, but was always kind of the redheaded stepchild of
Yeah.
everybody. And thank God for the fanboy culture. I get
Hmm.
annoyed. I'm a hypocrite because I get annoyed with the MCU, DCU fanboy culture. But even though I love a lot of the movies,
Hmm.
but thank God for fanboy culture for horror. Horror never dies. Horror fans. There's an old the director Penelope Spheris did a trilogy, The Decline of Western Civilization. The
Hmm.
first one was punk, and the second one was metal. And they were interviewing fans lined up for a concert, and they're metal fans never die. And by the end of the documentary, all the artists, most of them said, yeah, metal fans are the truest, most dedicated fans in music. And I think that's true. Maybe Deadheads. I don't know. I don't like Dirty Secret. I don't like the Grateful Dead, but horror fans are that way. And I
Hmm.
like that. And it is a culture where you celebrate the low budget, where else is Basket Case considered a genius classic?
I
Um,
mean, it is a time capsule of how seedy Times Square was in the 80s.
Oh, you can smell that movie.
Yes.
I've always said that, like movies like Basket Case and Maniac and
Hmm.
even Hooper's Texas Chainsaw, you can smell them,
Yeah.
and they stink. I mean that facetiously. They're all great movies, but
Right.
that goes to the atmosphere they created, and yeah, it's just kind of gross, and you feel gross, and I love every second of it. It's great.
Yeah, and we do a top five, bottom five are horror movies at the end of the year too. And I
Yeah.
think 2022, talk about that year, we had X being in the top 5, but Pearl being in the bottom 5 by this, both by Ty West. And it's
Thank you.
amazing that differentiate there. That is,
I took slack. I take flack for that. When I reviewed X, what it came out in the spring,
yeah,
glowing review,
yep,
glowing. And when my review of Pearl, I think she should have been nominated for Best Actress. I thought she was incredible in Pearl. The movie is fine.
yeah.
It's okay. And Maxine, I think, ended very nicely.
Haven't had a chance to watch that yet.
Good. I at the press screening, a couple of critics came out, and I'm like, well, mm. I mean, it's like Fred Olin Ray or Gary Sherman from the early '80s. It's
Yeah.
really, it's so good, so good. I love it.
Now, how do you feel, especially with horror, about the indie world of it? Do you think there's more creativity in the indie side of things versus the
I do.
mainstream?
I do big time. Especially the really, really indie ones.
Hmm.
No, I'm just kidding. But no, the indie world in horror is kind of where it's at, and maybe also overseas. They know how to
Hmm.
do it. Hollywood horror, while there is some good ones, First Omen again, it's all kind of the same playbook a lot of times, the same structure,
Right.
the same and trailers make them even they make horror movies, Hollywood horror movies, even worse. you know in a trailer, they set you up for the jump scare in the trailer.
Yep.
They're playing the music or the sounds, and they just cut the sound for 5 seconds,
Yeah.
and then it happens, and it's happening, and that's annoying. And an old complaint at this point, trailers, especially with big budget horror, show too much,
Yes.
way too much. And I think indie horror, the creativity is there, and maybe stronger than it's been since the 1980s,
Hmm.
which is where it thrived.
Right.
I think Ty West, even though he straddles at this point indie and my
Right.
budgets, I love these big budgets. I think House of the Devil is still his best film for me. It's like going to see a movie in a grindhouse theater in 1980 or
Right.
a drive-in. But no, the creativity is there, and that's the horror I seek. And I'm talking indie films like Ty West, or
Hmm.
what it used to be, all the way to stuff you have to find on somebody's website. It might not be high quality, but the ideas are there, and I love it when people go for the gore.
Hmm.
I miss going for that. I miss going for the gore because everybody's so Hollywood itself, and I'd say 75% of moviegoers today are so prudish
Right.
about sex, about gore. I'm not saying you have to every horror movie has to be, orgies and blood and everything. I don't know if you saw Cronenberg Jr.'s Infinity Pool.
Yes.
I saw it at Sundance, and there were walkouts, and
Really.
and it was the uncut version, which I'm sure you saw, with the orgy.
Yeah.
And and I'm thinking, and not in a perverted way, but when I was watching, I'm like, yes, this is what it used to be. Filmmakers just, this is what our movie's about. There's a sexual violence to the characters. I'm talking about this movie,
Yeah.
Infinity Pool. There's a
Right.
sexual violence to the characters in their very nature, and just to have them talk about it is boring. We have to show why they are that way, and that
Right.
extended orgy sequence full of just graphic sex, and I you know it it's the way things used to be. It's the way De Palma used to be. It's the
Yep.
way horror used to be, and I appreciate that. And for better or worse, that is an indie film ish. or was
Ish.
ish, but
Yeah.
not as indie as we were talking. But
Right.
I should say off the beaten path of the mainstream for
There
that.
you go.
But
Yeah.
no, the creativity is in the indie work. I mean, Jennifer Kent, people like that. I could just go on. I'll just start naming and this one and this one and that one.
Right.
But yeah, no, I prefer indie horror to Hollywood horror. That's where the ideas are.
Now, did you have a chance to watch In a Violent Nature?
Yeah, I
What
had
did you think of it?
a screening of it. Here's what I said in my review. I think I said it in my review, or I was telling someone this. If Friday and look, by now this has probably been said 1,000 times. If Friday the 13th were done by Terrence Malick, um, this is what you would get. Or Gus. All right, you know what? Gus Van Zant's a better example. If Gus Van Sant did a Jason film, it would be
Mhm.
that with Tom Savini looking over the effects.
Right.
And I thought it was wonderful. It'll go on my best of the year list come year's end. Were you a fan?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I like as soon as I got out of the theater, I'm like I had to go on Instagram and copy Chris Nash, the right direction. I'm like trying to
yeah,
get him on to come on the show. I'm like, you
right.
need to come on the show just because like I loved it. It's great perspective of being behind the killer the entire time.
Yeah, and that's the way to do it. And I remember when it first started because you see the necklace hanging and you
Yep.
hear them coming and I'm like, we're gonna be a little trying too hard on the artsiness here. But as soon as I mean it's out there now, as soon
Yeah.
as he comes out
Yep.
and starts walking, yes, this is how and then the lake scene
Hmm.
with the girls and he's on the other side. Oh, it's incredible. I loved it. And one of the see, I told you I can geek out. And one of the best kills I have seen since the days where Savini ruled the day
Hmm.
uh, is the yoga chick on the.
Yeah.
I
Oh
don't
yeah.
spoil that if somebody hasn't seen it. Oh, it's just yeah, it's an incredible film. I was very happy. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna keep trying to get Chris Nash to come on the on the show just
Oh,
to
good
geek
luck.
out and behind
Good
the
luck.
scenes stuff with
I
him.
was gonna say I need to interview him. Yeah. We're duking it out. I got him. No, I got him.
But yeah, I think that's kind of my mode now is when I see a great horror movie, like I'll just copy people and see if they respond. If they do, awesome. If not, like I said, it's great. I think there's only 4 people in the theater when I saw it. It was me and my buddy, and I think the other 2 people walked out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And that's and I love that because I like a film that divides an audience.
Hmm.
When I saw David Lynch's Inland Empire, if you saw that,
I have not.
uh, I'm a huge Lynch fan, but I'm also not, you know, I'll tell you when he did something wrong. It's a movie that works half the time and is just frustrating half the time. But I also think it holds Laura Dern's finest hour. But anyway, I saw it not in a press screening, but at a regular screening at the AFI Theater, and there were probably 15 to 20 people in there. And by the time the end credits rolled 3.5 hours later, um, there were probably 6 or 7. I mean, there were massive walkouts on that one, and
Yeah.
I love that. I love when a film, especially in the horror genre, and that very much is a horror film.
Hmm.
Uh, I love it when it divides an audience. I love hearing somebody say, "Oh wow, did you like it? That was great." No, it offended me. It grossed me out. Yes, that director did a great job, even if I'm on the negative side of it.
Right.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I know definitely. I remember seeing House of Thousand Corpses in theaters. It was me, my then girlfriend, my buddy,
Excuse
and
me.
it was probably about 20 people. We were the only 3 people left by the time
Really?
the movie was done. Yeah.
Hey, I spoke to him as well. I'm a big defender of Rob Zombie. I am cinematically. I like his music, of course, but
Yes.
you can say what you want about the Halloween films. I don't love them, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of good in them. And I'll just say this: I'm not saying you're gonna like it, but everybody reevaluate his Halloween too. Just do it. you might still be angry, but you'll say, okay, but I did like this and that. But
Yeah.
can't say that I'm a big fan of those, but I love his other stuff.
It took me from when it came out to when we did the podcast episode on it for me to rewatch it. I
Oh,
was,
yeah.
yeah, just
I
because I
remember
didn't give it that much of a chance then.
driving home. My buddy and I went driving home from Halloween 2. It's like you're driving home with a spouse or a girlfriend, and you've just fought. And you're just
Yeah.
like, what are we gonna say? I don't know. We'll talk about this when we get home.
Yeah, with the horse and him speaking and pretty much being unmasked the entire time, I think it took the essence of Michael Myers away.
Oh, sure. I'll be honest, I hated all that. Yeah, no. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, you guys just Darth Vader'd him.
Right.
No, it did take the essence out, and I could teach a class on Halloween movies. It's the first two.
Right.
Carpenter era.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I love them. But yeah, you're right. The essence is gone.
Mm-hmm. So
And then turning Loomis into an opportunist. I didn't.
yeah.
Like
Our
now you
running
make me hate it again.
see our running theory was Dr. Sam Loomis was the world's worst child psychiatrist.
That's right. That's good. Yeah, you're right. And then in the first one, he screams worse than any scream queen when Michael pops in at the second half, or what I call the last 45-minute remake of the original Halloween.
Right.
Yeah. But no. But other than that, I like Rob Zombie's other stuff. And I think Lords of Salem. Oh, another answer to your first question. Lords of Salem is one of the undervalued horror films I've ever seen.
I think it's fantastic.
It's great. It's my favorite zombie film.
Yeah. Now the monsters that he did, not a fan.
Good night. No. I knew there was something wrong when I saw the trailer, and then I had this. There was no press screening because it went straight to. But I had the screener, and I watched it like 5 days before it came out, so I could get the review out. And I remember my wife works upstairs in the office. And she came down after, and she said, "Well," and I'm like, "Oh, honey, no." he screwed up everything except I didn't mind. I'm sorry, I've had a long day. What's his nuts as Herman?
Jeffrey Lewis, right?
No. Damn it. Anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was okay. But he was just aping what Fred Gwynn did. So
right. Yeah.
And no, that's just a mess. It looked like somebody took a home camera and just went on a side street and filmed it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we are at time. It flew by fast. So ready for the roundup questions here?
Sure.
Practical or CGI?
Pardon me?
Practical or CGI?
Practical. Always and forever. Those will be my dying words. Practical effects.
Yeah. Like I said, everyone has come on. This is episode 38 has said practical. So we are.
I want to know who says CGI. I want to know.
Yeah, we had a VFX guy on. He really said CGI, but with practical as a
using CGI properly. Yeah, CGI is used to hold up practical or color a background. That's CGI. So
right,
but practical forever. You want an example, everybody? John Carpenter's The Thing. It's an easy get, but that's my stock answer.
Oh yeah. All right. So if you were given $10 million to make a movie or TV show with an existing IP, what would it be?
Oh, it's not in the horror genre. I'd make another Mad Max film because I wrote it in my head about 30 years ago. I would make it with Mel Gibson now, and I would make it as he meets a bunch of people, and there's the whole movie is them wanting to start civilization again, but also it's basically like the Road Warrior, just constant, balls to the wall, practical. And at the end, civilization is restored, and he's a cop again driving a interceptor vehicle, and that's the last shot of the movie, him getting in his interceptor vehicle and going. So don't steal that, Miller, if you're listening. Or please steal it, because that would be a great way to end this. But I would, I bow at the altar of Mad Max, and I want him to keep coming. I'm sorry Furiosa didn't do well.
Yeah, it was. We saw it in theaters. Salem, my producer, is a huge Mad Max fan. So
me too.
I'd be interested to see what he thinks about your idea.
There's more to it, but for the sake of time,
right. All right. So, any advice for anyone getting into the film review field?
My biggest advice is how to get in it. You just honestly start blogging, start putting stuff on your Facebook, Instagram, and build a body of work. Find a style you like, but my number one, and then put yourself out there. Go to all these. Some of them won't pay you. Some, they just want contributors, but that gets your stuff out there. And then the paying people come a-calling or are accepting when you come calling. It's very easy if you like film. And my number one thing is be honest. I know someone who writes reviews and he doesn't like to give a bad review. So if he sees a movie he hates, you will never be able to tell that by his review. Now, look, I don't like giving a bad review because that means I've seen a bad film, and I don't like seeing bad films. And I've been nasty a couple of times, like in Babylon. I just didn't like it. No, I was, what in the hell is wrong with you? But just be honest. If you hate something, you don't have to be vicious towards it, but just be honest about you hating it. If you love, don't, oh my God, every critic is loving this film, so I'll say something good about it. If you can't say something good, don't, but do it in a intelligent way, do it in a way that, speaks it. And on that same note, even if there's one glimmer of good in a movie you hate, talk about it.
Right.
Bring that in there. But don't say, this movie, I liked it, and then I see it on your worst of the year list. I'm like, wait, your review said something different. Just be honest. And it's very easy to write about films, but do it on your own first. Get comfortable, get a style, and put yourself out there. But again, the best way, because I know a lot of people that have done this, start blogging, start and Facebook, Twitter, whatever you're on, put your stuff on there, and you will get a following. You build a following, and then put yourself out there. It's very easy.
Yeah.
I
love that.
And it's fun. Writing about film is just wonderful. Making it's a little better, but I'm getting back to that soon.
I know for us, we're sharing a table with the production company I'm part of to help promote the podcast and what we do and everything at Days of the Dead in Chicago here in November. So it's great fun. I love talking to everyone in the horror world and just people that enjoy movies as a whole.
Right. Very quickly, have you ever talked to or want to talk to the Soska sisters?
I have not talked to them.
Jen and Sylvia.
Yeah.
I interviewed them in 2019 with their Rabid remake of Chronicles of Rabid. They are the coolest. I mean, you want to have a good time, get an interview. They are fantastic. And I think they're, I was going to say this on the indie thing, but then we got out of it. They are the most just cinema-loving, horror-loving indie filmmakers out there. I mean, they are homegrown. They're starting out with Dead Hooker in a Trunk and American Mary, which I think is a body horror classic in my opinion.
Right.
And the Soska sisters, I always promote them. I'm sorry, but they are just. I was not a fan of their latest one, Festival of the Dead, but Festival of the Living Dead. But I think they're great. They do everything homegrown. They raise the money themselves, and they get a lot of good performers. They do practical effects, and I love them. And I'm sorry, I'm
Oh,
answering
no
the
worries.
question you asked earlier, but I didn't want to get away without answering that part of it. So,
Oh, no worries. Yeah, if you have their information, shoot it over to me. I'd love to have them on.
all right, yeah, I'll look it up and I'll get it to you.
Awesome. So you ready for our random horror movie or trivia card question?
I am, and I'm scared.
All right.
Because on the wrong day, you can ask me about some of my favorite films. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, it's all pretty good fun. All right. What is the name of the Broken Lizards 2004 slasher film that was released after Super Troopers?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Broken Lizard, but I'm trying to think the Bill Paxton thing. I can't think of the name of it.
Oh, it's all right. Club Dread.
Club Dread. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So before we go, Anthony, can you give us all your pluggables? Where can people find you and your work?
That was the only question I get. I blew it. I'm doing proofreading, but I have a few reviews here and there on filmthreat.com. But my main bases are screencomment.com and the movierevue.com. Review is REVUE, which screws up Google a little bit, but those are my home bases. And I'm also a contributor to the Nerds Rule the World podcast. And we just did one on Deadpool and Wolverine. And yeah, so yeah, you can find all my stuff there. And period.
Awesome.
That's where I am. And I'm on Twitter and Facebook and at Twitter and Instagram at Movie Review at Screen Comment.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, Anthony, for joining us tonight. And as always, I've been Graveyard. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, get those numbers up. We're doing a sub fest right now where we're going to try to get more subscriptions, and we'll give away loot boxes for anyone that happens to subscribe. So enter a chance to win. So, all right. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next time. And make sure to not get lost in the void. Good night.